Well, Worlds groups is I guess we're going into the sixth or fifth day, whatever. Anyway, I've lost all track of time. I'm joined right now by Broxah, and it's been probably, I don't know, 12, 15 hours since the end of Team Liquid's run. Of course, this coverage is brought to you by Alienware. Broxah, thank you so much for taking the time to do this with me, because I know that it can be really tough after a loss to chat, and so the fact that you're able to just talk with me is really appreciated.
Yeah, so I know that yesterday after our game, you asked me to do the interview, and I rarely decline interviews, but in that moment, after being so close to making it to quarters, I could just see myself doing this interview and actually, breaking down on camera. Um, so I'm happy we got to delay it a bit, do it now. I'm still not in the greatest spot. I've slept like 4 hours. I'm still, I'm not the type of person who's the greatest at handling losses. It usually is pretty painful for a bunch of days at least. But yeah, I mean, I'm happy that I still get to talk to you and can share some of my thoughts.
Well, it's really appreciated, because I know a lot would just say to themselves like, "Oh, well, I'm done. I don't even have to do this anymore." So it's nice of you to do that. Maybe you can just help me understand from your perspective how groups went, because God, it feels like the unfortunate loss to Machi. A lot of people started to get really discouraged, and then by the time you guys faced G2 that first time, it felt like we were seeing a very different Team Liquid, a more aggressive Team Liquid, and I feel like the Liquid, like I remember interviewing you in Summer Split, I think it was, and you saying like you wanted to make the team more aggressive, and the Team Liquid we saw in that G2 game, we're seeing you with the aggressive level ones. You're in their jungle, and I just it was sort of what I think a lot of fans wanted to see for a long time. So what sort of transpired between the Machi game and that G2 game that sort of changed the way that you all were playing the game?
So right now, first of all, it does feel extremely bittersweet for me, extremely sad because, as you said, the way we played these 3 wins in group stage is the exact way that I was hoping we would be able to play with me joining the team ever since the beginning, but we just never really made it work. We never pushed hard enough because in North America, it's like we just kind of stuck with comfort, I guess, played the good old TL way because that's what brought us so many wins. Like it was like, kind of in play-ins, I feel like it was the same thing. We could just play this way, play slow, the typical TL way, like slow, smart, don't take any risks, not too much action, and then we would just slowly outsmart the opposing team and win with macro play. And I feel like at the start of group stage, we still came in with that mindset, which was definitely wrong, because at some point when the teams you meet are at such a high level, that just doesn't work anymore. And against Machi, we didn't really have much tools to do anything. The game wasn't really in our control after some early mistakes. Against Suning, we got completely stumped, and that was a big wake-up call for us, which, obviously now being in this situation, there's so many thoughts going through my mind, regrets, things I could have done different, we could have done different, things we could have changed earlier, and the way we approach the game surely is one of them. And it's like there's a limit to how much could have been done, because there's a reason we approached everything throughout the year the way we did. But it sucks being down 0-2 and realizing in that moment like what we've been doing this entire year, what we've constantly been working on, the way we approach the game, is just not going to work against these teams. Like we just lose the game in the first 5 minutes and it's just unplayable. And then we went into the first G2 game with a different mindset, and all of us kind of felt the same way, that we don't want to lose early games anymore. Like, it can't be right. We can't even get to mid game before the game is over. We want to change it up. We want to play differently. And we want to be the ones controlling the game and smashing these people in early game, which is more or less the exact opposite of what you think of when you think of Team Liquid, right? Like, this doesn't sound like Teal at all, but this was the change that we felt was needed. So we went from drafting, scaling, doing stuff like blinding Twitch or Khan, to just playing the lane prior, getting a good jungle matchup, making sure that we're in control of the game, and then just playing to smash those early games and have the entire game in our control. And yeah, so we went into the first G2 game with that mindset, while also realizing that we had nothing to lose anymore. Like, there was literally nothing to lose. If we didn't win that first G2 game, we were out already. Well, not literally, but it's, pretty much out already. It was so unrealistic to get out. Then we just went in with no fear. We took a lot of fights. We were like a completely changed team within like 24 hours because of that team discussion we had and how we all approached each other. And then, yeah, obviously the next game against G2 was a bit brutal, and they did the same thing to us. They stumped us. But for me, I don't know. It's like a weird situation to be in, because it feels like we started getting punished really hard for a lot of things that we got away with in North America. And this realization of how we want to approach Worlds, how we want our team to function, or some of these really small things we could change, whether it's about how we play as a team, how we play as individuals, how we draft, how we do whatever. Like, a lot of these small changes we just realized too late. So now I'm sitting here like thinking, imagine what it could have been like if we started approaching the game this way months ago. Like,
Yeah.
Because it feels so bad right now that, like, I'm just sitting here and I'm still so sad that we didn't get that tiebreaker. Because if we got that tiebreaker against Suning, I mean, maybe we would have lost and we wouldn't have made it to quarters. But I'm just sitting here like, so much could have happened, the timeline could have been so different. And then because we messed up in week one, it's just over. So it's rather depressing.
Well, I know this is a tough question to answer right now, but I want to ask it only because I know that some watching this interview will go, on Reddit or YouTube comments or Twitter or wherever and say, like, everyone knew Team Liquid was playing slow, and everyone knew that so many of these other teams at Worlds would play more fast and more aggressive. And so this kind of moment that you're having where you're thinking, if only we'd started to play this way 4 months ago, I feel like a lot of other people are going to be like, yes, if only you had started to play this way 4 months ago. So a lot of people don't know what goes on behind the scenes of a team or why certain decisions are made. And I know you guys are all smart and you've got a smart coaching staff. So why was there that hesitancy to try to ramp up and start playing this more aggressive style that we started to see at Worlds, and even from yourself after the first two losses?
I think oftentimes the teams that do the best are the teams that find a specific way to play the game, and they just stick to it, and that gets so good at it, that they just know all situations in and out, and who can outplay the opponent in any given situation with that specific style. And I think we ended up taking that a bit too far in terms of just not really adapting at all until it was too late. And I think when it comes to my jungle champion pool, for example, I know that has been something a lot of people have talked about, that I have played some different champions, but I have mostly played Graves and Lee and not really much else, right? And that's not because I can't play anything else. I know a lot of people out there think so, which is a bit sad, but that's not the case. It's just, we just felt that we found this way of approaching the game, and we felt that if we just stuck with it, it would just make sense and it would work. But because in NA we got abused for it like a little bit by FlyQuest and CSM, not much, but they did a little bit, but it was just as much, a lot of mistakes were made in the games that made us lose, right? But here at Worlds, with how the meta shifted and everything, like this style like just didn't make sense anymore, especially now because we're in like a really heavy farming jungle meta, and where a lot of the game just is so much more around the jungler. Like you need to play around the jungler in a different way, where sometimes in the past it would be the jungler playing for the lanes, which is how we would play in North America. Like I would sacrifice farm and just try to put my lanes ahead, but here at Worlds, we couldn't do that anymore. Like we had to change everything up, and I think, yeah, we just realized a bit too late. And when it comes to champions and playing comfort champions or our style, like this is discussions we've had a lot of times this year, and we're a team with a lot of people, different opinions. We've had a lot of different talks about what's best for us, how we want to approach it, and ultimately, in the end, we just ended up agreeing to do it like this specific way, and then that's what we felt like as a team would make the most sense, so we went for it.
There are a lot of people that had Team Liquid place third in this group, and not just because of the fact that you guys were third seeds that had to go through plans, but also just this consideration that North America historically has not performed well internationally, especially at Worlds. Going into this group, did you feel that your team was were underdogs, that they were the underdogs of the group, and that third place was where people expected, or did you have different expectations for the team?
I knew it was going to be hard getting out of this group, but I always believed we had a really good chance. And going into it, if I were to say that in an interview or something, a lot of fans would probably come at me and call me delusional. But for what it's worth, I feel like we have proved that we actually had a really good chance of getting out of this group, and some of the hiccups we made, especially in the first week, but just as much yesterday against G2, like some of those small mistakes here and there, they just kind of ruined it for us, which is a shame, because we did beat every team. We lost to every team, we beat every team, and it's kind of funny how it happened too, because 3 games we got smashed, but in other 3 games we smashed the opponents. So it's kind of a weird feeling, right? But I think we had a good chance, and it was close.
Yeah. So you this year have had an interesting year. I remember interviewing you towards the end of spring, and you just talking about how wild it was for you to have to wait so long to even get to come over to North America, and the visa issues that you had, and then getting here and having to be in quarantine and playing at home and not being able to go to the gym. I mean, you did make it to Worlds, and to your point, you were 1 loss away, or 1 win away, I guess, from going 1-1, tying up all the top 3 teams in that group. So, I mean, for you personally, how do you look at this year? Has it just sucked as it has for many of us, or what do you think of your personal year?
It's kind of funny you asked this question, because this morning when I woke up, so usually after losing, I have like cycles I go through. The first one is that, I'm just filled with pain, negative, depressed, really sad. And then at some point I slowly start reflecting on the year, what I could have done different, what I've gone through. And then eventually after that I'm trying to, despite it being hard, and I still haven't gotten to that phase, but I try to find some positives and takeaways, right? And so this morning after waking up, I was like sitting, gathering my thoughts, trying to think of the year and everything I've gone through, and it's completely crazy to think about, like from the visa issues. Then I got to LA, and I was isolated in my room on this new continent for like 2 months. We went ninth place in spring, and then still somehow made it to Worlds after that, like a crazy comeback. And I haven't been able to see any of my close ones in Europe, like my family, friends, and my girlfriend, for 8 months. It has been a difficult year in a lot of ways. It has been really hard mentally. And then on top of all that, I've had a ton of criticism coming from the community as well, to an extent that I've never really experienced before. Which part of it has been justified, but I've also felt the entire time that I've been scapegoated a little hardcore, and it has been blown out of proportion too, and that has been a bit difficult to deal with at times. So yeah, with just everything combined, it has been a very hard year for me. Um, if I try to put everything into perspective, I can't say it's a failure to go to Worlds and actually do pretty well in group stage, despite what some people may think. Like, it feels really depressing that we were so close and didn't make it, but we also did show that North American teams can actually compete, and that if a few adjustments were made here and there, if we did just a couple of things differently, we would be in quarterfinals right now. And that feels pretty good. And yeah, if I look back, like seeing all the hardships I've had to overcome, all the struggles and, things I've had to overcome mentally, I'm pretty proud of what I've achieved this year, proud of what I've went through, and also proud of how we've handled everything as a team, because I could see a lot of scenarios where the team atmosphere wouldn't be the greatest, or where things would be really hard for the team, especially in spring. I mean, the spring was hard, right? But in general, just coming here to this team and seeing how everyone has been sticking together the entire time, even after we went 0-2 in group stage, like no one were mad at each other. No one, like the atmosphere was fine. It caught me really off guard. I was like, oh no, everything is going to be in fire. It's going to be really rough. And it was rough, but mostly in terms of like, from an individual point of view, like preparing mentally for the next game and the pressure and all, right? But the team atmosphere has been really good, and I can't say I regret joining Teal and going to NA. And if I put everything into perspective, I think I can be pretty happy about this year. It could have been a lot worse than it actually is, and I feel like I've grown so much as a person too.
Well, I'm glad that we went in this direction, because I did have a question for you. A lot of North American fans have become Broxah fans over this year through your streaming and all this stuff. And your contract is up with Team Liquid. I am not going to put you in the position of asking you, are you re-signing with Team Liquid? Are you going someplace else? Whatever. Because I know it's unfair, and also it's a weird time to do that. But as you talk about Europe, and you talk a lot about not being able to see a lot of people, and you talk a lot about 8 months since you've seen your girlfriend, and as proud as you may be about this year, also, as you said, it's been kind of shitty. And so I worry about a world where, like, a lot of North American fans have become Broxah fans, and perhaps Broxah is less a fan of North America, or at least is experiencing it right now, than in Europe. So I don't know if there's anything you feel comfortable about saying around this stuff, but like, I don't know if you still feel really committed to the LCS, or if you're looking at all sorts of different options, including being able to return back to an area that might feel more comfortable to you. I don't know if there's anything you can say to assuage any of the fans' thoughts on this stuff.
It's always weird right after Worlds, when thinking about the future, because I don't really know what's gonna happen. I can't know, and in a way, part of it is in my power, but there's also part of it that's not. That depends on um, decisions that um, Team Liquid will make or other teams will make, and how I feel as a person, what I feel I need in terms like just to be happy next year, right? And when it comes to North America, I have gotten my fair share of hatred from this region, that's for sure, more than I got in the EU. But despite that, there's also been a lot of really nice people around, a ton of nice people, fans, people in the community, broadcast, wherever, like just in general, right? And Team Liquid has felt like a home this year. It hasn't felt like just a job and being around colleagues. Like I've actually been treated really well, and that has been really great. So right now it's not like, again, I don't know what next year is going to bring because there's so many question marks right now, right? But I can easily see a world where I play another year in North America. Because, honestly, here at Worlds, despite what people may think, I really, really wanted to make NA proud and actually show that an NA team could get out of groups. Because I've always been on the other side of it, being on the EU side where people would always, hate on North America and meme on them and all. But now when you're in the situation, like it's so damn annoying, being in here and just proving all those people wrong would have felt amazing. Like it feels so bad that we didn't make it, and that is part of it, right? Like just proving everybody wrong, giving the NA fans what they want, because that's why so many NA fans are so angry and salty. They're like, they just have so low expectations for their teams. They're so used to them losing, and they just think all the players and teams are trash. So if we were to prove that wrong, that would have felt pretty great. But yeah, to go back to your question, I don't know what's gonna happen, but NA hasn't scared me away by any means. I can see ups and downs of being in NA, being in Europe. I don't think the gap between the two regions is as big as a lot of people make it out to be. I actually think if you take the top 4 teams in NA and compare them to the top 4 teams in EU, it's really close. Maybe if you look at the teams ranked 5th to 10th place, EU has an edge. I think that's fair to say. But if you look at like the actual top, it's close.
Well, that's good to hear. I think a lot of fans will be happy to hear that you're not looking to just bail out after all of this, because a lot of people are fans of you after this year, and even if you did receive some shitty comments and feedback here and there, I know that a lot of people have been happy to have you be part of the LCS. On that note, and I don't want to take up too much of your time, let you prepare. It sounds like you're going back to Europe to see everybody in tomorrow, you said?
Yeah, so, well, in 2 days, I will be traveling with Jensen to Denmark. It's going to be a weird experience. I think around the time we land, it's going to be... So I think I traveled from Denmark 13th of February, and I think I'll be landing in Denmark on like the 11th or 12th or something. So it's more or less exactly 8 months that I've been away. And yeah, thinking of how much has happened since then is pretty crazy. I'm even curious to see what it's going to be like being in Denmark, because the pandemic is also impacting Denmark as well, right? But yeah, on one side, I'm really heartbroken. We couldn't go further at Worlds, because obviously I would have loved staying here longer, fighting for the region, fighting for myself, the org, the fans, everyone. But there's also a part of me that's like, well, obviously there's a part of me that's excited to go home and see all my close ones that I haven't been able to see for so long, right? So yeah, it's a weird feeling, but in a way, getting some time at home in Denmark is not gonna hurt.
Yeah. Well, is there anything that you would like to say to any of your fans before you head back to Denmark in a couple days and await, I guess, the off-season craziness? Anything to anybody out there?
Well, I guess I can turn to the camera now. uh, so, after we lost yesterday, I have been spammed with messages from fans. Like, loads of messages. I would guess probably somewhere between 50 and 100. I haven't been able to read a lot of them yet, I gotta admit, but I do know that I've received a lot of messages that I need to have a look at. And I was a bit nervous at first when I opened my inbox just to have a sneak peek, because I thought there would be a lot of angry messages, you know. NA didn't make it out of groups again. I could just imagine what kind of threats I would be getting, but just like the rest of the split, there's been so many fans supporting. All those messages were filled with kindness, you know, saying how much people appreciate me as a person, as a player, what I've brought to TL and NA, and you know, stuff like that means a lot to me, especially being in this situation now, being sad about not making it out of Worlds. And I feel like if we look at the bigger picture, I have been receiving a pretty warm welcome to NA. My community on Twitch has been growing. I've had so many fans supporting me the entire way, and it has been great. It has been great, you know, having so much support, and I really appreciate that. I'm sorry we didn't make it out of Worlds. Kind of starting to get a little emotional here, so I'm trying to focus a bit and hold back while I'm talking. But yeah, I'm sorry. I tried my best. We tried our best, and I know that doesn't really mean much because we didn't make it out of groups, but we really tried. Yeah, I guess that's it.
Broxah, thank you so much for the interview, for being so candid. And I say this as much to you as I do to the people watching this. It is very rare for people to be open to talking about losses, especially really tough ones. And so, and I sometimes find these interviews to be far more illuminating than just, oh, you made it to the next stage of the event. So I truly do really appreciate it, and I appreciate the Team Liquid staff who have helped coordinate this and make it possible. So thank you to you. Looking forward to next year. Hopefully I'll be interviewing you frequently and not just at international events. We'll see how things unfold in off season. For everyone else, you can check out the rest of my coverage of all things Worlds right here on my YouTube channel. You know, when the first settlers were traveling across America, they came right down this road. And they needed supplies. And you know who they relied on? Alienware for those supplies. That's right. They needed to have like a great M15 laptop to ensure that I'm gonna keep doing this while we move out of the way. They needed a great laptop to make sure that they could weather the challenges of travel. I have no idea what this looks like. I don't have Broden with me. And so that's what they did. They actually... Is this car slowing down too much? Is he going to ask me a question about what I'm doing? Okay, no, we're good. They moved on. So my point is, yes, those settlers, they relied on Alienware. And you can rely on Alienware. There's a link in the video description. Thank you to them and DraftBuff for sponsoring my Worlds coverage. And they're doing a giveaway for a bunch of cool stuff. So go check out the giveaway. If you enter, it really helps us out.